First of all, why do people gravitate towards using the Smith machine opposed to using the more traditional barbell? The reason is because it's easier. It's the same reason people ask questions such as how can I build muscle the fastest, or how can I lose weight the quickest, or what is the best hack or tip to build more muscle. Us humans are always looking for what's the easiest way to do things. I want to steer you guys away from going after the things that are most easy, because the things that are most easy are easy because they're not worth having. The things that are most difficult to do, they are difficult because they are worth having. Being comfortable and experiencing no difficulties is not very fulfilling. There's a reason why as a society we place value on something as simple as having a six-pack, because it's so hard to do. Not many people have a six-pack. Maybe only 1% or less of the population have a six-pack, and that is why we place value on that, because it's difficult to do. The barbell back squat or front squat is very effective for building the legs, because it's very difficult to do. So let's talk a bit more about the Smith machine. Whenever you see somebody using the Smith machine, it's often with the bench press, squats, or some kind of shoulder press, those compound movements. And that leads me into my first point of why you should use the traditional barbell instead of the Smith machine. When we're performing compound movements, which means an exercise that is incorporating multiple muscle groups, such as the squat or the bench press. For example, a barbell squat is working the hamstrings, the glutes, and the quads all at once. It's a compound exercise. The reason we program compound exercises is because it's the quickest way to build muscle. They are superior over an isolation exercise. For you beginners, an isolation exercise is something like a bicep curl, where you're just working one muscle with a bicep curl. If our goal is to perform a compound movement because it's the most difficult, it's working the most muscles, it's putting the most stress on those muscles, forcing them to grow, wouldn't it make more sense to use a traditional barbell, which actually makes the exercise more difficult and makes those muscles work harder, than to use the Smith machine? Because the Smith machine will take some of the pressure off, it will make that exercise easier, and that's a big reason why people gravitate towards the Smith machine, because it's easier. But we don't want to make the exercise easier, we want to do what's most difficult. Another huge issue I have with the Smith machine is you're locked in place. You cannot adjust your form accordingly. The squat is a very difficult exercise, it takes a long time to learn and perfect your form on the squat. You can't make any necessary adjustments when you're locked in. When you use the Smith machine, you are completely locked in. You're just going to go up and down, that's the movement. There is no way to adjust your form based on your individual movement patterns. And this can actually cause injuries in the long term as well, because we're all different heights and our bodies are structured differently. Our muscles insert in different places. For example, you might be 6'6", I might be 6 foot. That's a huge difference. Your arms might be longer than mine, my legs might be longer than yours. You may even have one arm or one leg that is shorter or longer than the other, and that's an issue. If you're locked in place, you can't adjust your form accordingly. A big misconception, particularly in beginners, but you see it in more intermediate and advanced people as well, is they think the barbell squat is exactly the same as the barbell squat on a Smith machine, because it looks the same. Those two movement patterns do not translate over. They're two separate things altogether. And you talk to anybody that's been training for a while, they'll tell you a few years into barbell squats, they will still be working on perfecting their form. It takes years to make sure your form is perfect. It's one of those exercises that you're constantly trying to improve on and practicing the squats more and more. So that then begs the question, is there ever a time to use a Smith machine, or is it completely a waste of time? Now, 95% of the time or higher, you should be focusing on lifting with free weights and getting better lifting with free weights. Maybe just a few times a year, the Smith machine can be helpful for two main things. For instance, let's say you wanted to incorporate drop sets. Now, this is something that I do not recommend beginners do, even though beginners are the ones that try to do drop sets and try to be fancy a lot of the time. I don't recommend complicating your training in the early stages, but if you wanted to do drop sets, then the Smith machine is an easier way to help you do drop sets with something like squats, for instance. Another time the Smith machine can be helpful is if you're really struggling to feel a particular muscle and you want to squeeze and stretch that muscle to get more blood into that muscle before you actually go and perform your exercise. So for instance, you might do 1 or 2 sets on the Smith machine of a barbell squat, so that way you can control the weight, you can go lighter, higher reps, and squeeze the quadriceps. Maybe that's a muscle you struggle to feel, and then afterwards you can go over and do your squats with the barbell. You're just doing 1 to 2 sets to really warm up, but this again shouldn't be a common thing. It's not something that most people need, but there are exceptions that some people need extra help feeling a particular muscle. If you've been training for, let's say, under 3 years, you shouldn't be touching the Smith machine. There's no reason for you to touch a Smith machine if you've been training under 3 years. Like I said, if you're a little more advanced and you want to swap things around, change things up, have a little bit of fun, try something different, then absolutely the Smith machine is not the worst thing in the world. But your fundamentals should be built with free weights. Another example of when the Smith machine can become useful is somebody who's coming back from an injury. So if you're coming back from an injury and you just want to ease back into your training, then the Smith machine can definitely help you in the short term. And I understand that beginners in the gym can be quite scared of lifting a barbell. I personally never experienced this. It's just something I've picked up on from helping other people. But don't be scared to get under a barbell. Most of the time you're not going to injure yourself. Start out light. There's no reason to start lifting the heaviest weight possible. Just lifting the 10 to 12 rep range. And also guys, don't be afraid to ask for help. I know we're all antisocial in the modern world, but look for a guy in the gym that looks like he knows what he's doing and just say, excuse me dude, I'm new to the gym, I'm really struggling, I'm a little bit worried about getting under this barbell, do you think you could give me some assistance while I learn how to do squats? 99% of the time someone is actually going to be happy that you asked for help, because people in the gym tend to want everybody to do well and everybody to improve. The video that I have on screen right now is the video I recommend you watch next, and that's the 3 biggest weight gain mistakes. To build muscle, we've got to eat more food, we've got to gain some weight, and you definitely want to avoid these 3 biggest mistakes.